I'm not aware of my blackness in Japan, which is kind of strange to say, but there's a reason for that. When I was in college, which was about 5 years, I spent all of my time.
Welcome to the Melanated Files. In this series, we highlight and share the stories of black people from across the globe. Remember to subscribe to this channel for weekly videos and also follow us on social media for regular updates. Let's get into the interview.
My name is Touré Grantham, and I'm from San Francisco, California. Why Japan? I chose Japan because it's a very long story, actually. After I graduated college in 2015, it was difficult to find a job in my career field, especially in San Francisco, California. It's very competitive and very expensive. And so after my graduation, I decided to move to Japan as a pragmatic solution. Because here in Japan, a lot of the times the first companies that you work for will train you to become whatever it is that they need you to become, without needing prior experience to even get the job in the first place. Whereas in America or the West, you have to have the experience before you even get the job. And coming as a new graduate, it'd be near impossible to do something like that in San Francisco, California. So that's why I chose Japan. It was just practical. So the field specifically is visual development. It's a pre-production for animation, video games, and movies. That's what I graduated in, is visual development, and I focus on character design, prop design, vehicle design, landscape design, things like that. So production companies specifically, say Lucasfilms, you're not gonna get in, not out of college. It doesn't matter. It matters about your experience and how much you can contribute to the team that's making these, multi-million, billion-dollar like blockbusters and visual effects and galore. So those types of companies, as well as in terms of video games, there's plenty. There's Activision. Oh, Activision? I think Activision is in. It's definitely in California. I believe it's also in San Francisco. Ubisoft is in San Francisco. And that's one of the third largest publishers in the video game industry. And it's...
So when you came to Japan, your goal was to eventually enter that industry in Japan?
Yes. Either whether it would be in animation, illustration, just general design, interior design, doesn't really matter because I'm a fine art major. So I have skills within a wide gamut of artistic abilities that are just completely different, whether that's drawing, that's painting, that's sculpture. I can do a lot of things. Right now I'm currently an elementary school English teacher. I work in a very expensive district in Tokyo at a single school with about 1,200 children. My ambitions for life in Japan. Deep question. My goal or ambition for Japan is just to build my foundation as solidify steady or comfortable way of living through my art and my design, and be more reliant on that aspect of my career path as opposed to teaching. So I want my side thing to become the main thing, and then the main thing to become the side thing. So Sun King. Sun King is, I would say, it's my identity. It's my identity in the sense that I myself am a brand. I'm a product. I'm a tool. I could be used to create things for anyone that has or needs a visualization of whatever their goal is. So if you, for instance, needed a logo, I can create a logo for you, for your brand, for your business, whatever your entrepreneurship is. If you had an idea for a story and you had all these imaginative characters, but you couldn't draw them, I would be the one to concept those ideas for you and create that for you. If you had a product that needed the appropriate packaging that you are targeting for a specific audience in a particular country, I would be the one to direct that vision into a specific executionable goal or like activity, product, whatever it is you need. I like the convenience of Japan. It's very easy to live here. That's also dangerous, I think, but easy in the sense that, for instance, they have all of these products that you necessarily wouldn't have even thought would be necessary, but the thing is that someone thought of it as this can make someone's life a little bit easier. So for instance, they have laundry bags in Japan. I've never seen a laundry bag in America. It's like a net garment bag with a zipper on it. You put all your things in there and you throw it in the washer, and then when you pull it out, your clothes aren't all tangled up because they're all in this one neat little laundry bag. Things like that. Things like other household products that you can use in your house to make things easier. The way that they organize space. Japan has like such limited space in certain areas. There's some pretty like very wide open areas and spaces, but the way that they use the economy of space is very like useful. I like it. It's enjoyable. What do I like the least about Japan? It's kind of a lot of things. a lot of things that shouldn't exist but they still do. Like, okay, I'll say sexism for right now. I can just think about one instance last year where a woman wasn't allowed into sumo ring, the Joel, because she was a woman, but there was a medical emergency. Like, the mayor of that city was having a heart attack and he collapsed. The announcer asked for someone in the audience who was a medical professional. They had like several nurses come up and a doctor, and they're women, and they're like, no women. What the fuck? Okay, right, whatever. Do your thing, Japan. And then there's so much things I hear about the workplace. I don't like the suicide rate. It's so depressing. Yeah, I could spend quite a bit of time on that topic, but I'll leave it there for now.
What's your favorite Japanese food?
Yakiimo. Yakiimo is it's a sweet potato. It's a baked sweet potato basically, and you can find them usually in the winter time. They have a truck. Usually farmers will bring them into the city, and they'll have a truck full of just the potatoes, and they come in like 3 sizes: big, medium, large. Well, not big and medium, but just big and large, really, die-inch hole. And the yakiimo is really, really sweet. It's like a yellow sweet potato. They're very different from the kind of yams or sweet potatoes we find in America, or probably even in Africa. It's called satsamaimo. It's purple. It's like a purple sweet potato with kind of yellowish white on the inside. But it's very, very delicious treat during the winter time. It's piping hot and steamy, and it melts in your mouth. It's delicious. The best life advice I've received. Here's an interesting one. You have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. Only you know which way and direction to choose. That's from Dr. Seuss.
Okay. All right.
It's great. It's great advice because no one can really tell you what it is you're going to do, how to do it. I mean, they can tell you how to do it, but that might not necessarily be what's good for you or the way that would be the most beneficial for everyone, even if it was done a certain way. So I think you should just stick to your own true path, and then you follow that with your heart's content, and then I think you'll be satisfied with the outcome and the results, as long as you're disciplined and focused in achieving that. Sometimes I'm not aware of my blackness in Japan, which is kind of strange to say, but there's a reason for that. When I was in college, which was about 5 years, I spent all of my time basically within a Japanese community, which, when I clarify that, would be I lived with Japanese people. They were my roommates. At the time, my girlfriend was Japanese, and so at home, in my home space, that's all I heard was Japanese, and it was Japanese culture. I mean, it's in America, but it was like its own little enclave. And then by just them being together, because Japanese people like to stick together, they attracted even more like Japanese people. And my house would be like this hub of a lot of foreign exchange students coming from Japan to study abroad in San Francisco, and then meeting my roommates and myself, and then it would be like this rotating group of people. Some people would stay for 3 months, some people would stay for 6 months, study abroad, some people would stay for a year, some people stay for 4 years. So I met a lot of Japanese people, and it kind of altered, I would say, the way I present myself, as opposed to, like, I don't know, if I'm with all my black friends, it's like you get real hood and real ratchet real quick. I don't know, you like turn it down. The intensity, I don't know, I feel like sometimes if you're walking around in America, you have to have an energy. I remember walking in Oakland, California, just like the first day I got there, and I was originally from Chicago, and you just have, as a black man, you just have to have, I don't know, like an attitude about you that, I guess it's like a mechanism of fear, maybe. Like you have to put this energy out to ensure that you stay safe. And maybe that's just like attention, and it kind of comes off as aggression. And I think that might be one of the reasons why people could be so fearful of like black skin, is because that's what they associate with black people. I don't want to be a weeb when I say that, but you just softer. I don't think there's anything particularly Japanese about it, because you can go anywhere in the world and find people that are similar in terms of culture, upbringing, but they can be separated by land and language. And I don't think it really matters, because people are people. And if all the people, I think humans are social in nature. So you're gonna adapt to whatever it is in your environment so you survive. Your emotions and your presentation and the way you present yourself is just another part of that social construct that makes you who you are in a certain place at a certain time. So you don't like wear a tuxedo to the bowling alley, right? All right, so when I was living in an apartment with my Japanese roommates, up until that point, I'd already been studying Japanese and Japanese cultures since I think my sophomore year in high school. So in total, up until now, I've been studying Japanese for like 10 years, and I've been like engaged in the community, I guess you could say. And so by the time that I actually became physically present in that community, whether that was in America or here, I feel like there's just certain types of cultural cues that you tend to become aware of when you're around Japanese people, I guess. Just as there's certain social cues for hanging around black people and white people and Latino people and whoever else. I think it's all the same. And so when I say that I become less aware of my blackness, I'm thinking more macro instead of micro. So Yeah, I get it. I'm a black guy in Japan. Okay. I also live in Tokyo, and I know a lot of these people are at least more familiar with the blackface. I've gone to other places in Japan that are more not diverse, like Choshi and Chiba, but that's East Japan, like near the ocean. It's just farmers, and like you see rows and rows and rows of cabbage, and then there's one black guy. It's like, oh, yeah, of course you get the stares, but it's not a bad thing. And I think people are just generally curious, and that's the only time I really do become aware of my blackness. Or when I have the children. I work with children all the time. They say some of the craziest stuff imaginable, especially because it's only temporary. And I mean, I've been working just at this one particular school for a whole year. I see these kids every single day, and I teach specifically about 450 of them, and I talk to them in Japanese because they don't know enough English most of the time, and we connect and really relate on a very basic human level, because children don't really see outside of superficiality. It's like, okay, you're brown, but you're a fun person to talk to, and I'm gonna talk to you, and you're cool. And then they have their other friends that could be mixed or international kids. Since I work in a very affluent part of Tokyo, a lot of the children that attend the school I teach at come from more well-off areas where their parents may be diplomats or presidents of companies, or things of just salarymen. They're definitely more exposed by a grand scale, I would say. Even in my district in particular, if you compared it to the rest of the country of Japan, I would say we have about like 40, no, not maybe, yeah, probably like 40% more English lessons inside of the school curriculum than other parts of Japan. And so, and that's just because of the Board of Education's and also the PTA collaborating on that, trying to get that interest, I guess, going, or disseminating that knowledge of, yeah, there's a black person, and we might call them gaikokujin, but all the gaikokujin are from specific places.
You don't feel like an outsider, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm kind of an unfair anecdotal example of this, because a lot of the Japanese people I even hang out with are my college buddies. So I came to Japan with a group or social network that I could be involved with. I could understand coming to this country and then not knowing anyone, and that must be really lonely, and you probably do feel like an outsider and like kind of not accepted maybe. But I think that's one of those things where you have to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, and you go find your little community. It's gonna be super hard because they're super close knit, but if you can find just one person with a hobby or an interest that you like to partake in or explore, and you know Japanese, or at least that person knows English, whichever one works, one's gonna be definitely harder than the other. Whichever one works, you're gonna be opened up to a whole nother like circle of people that share those interests, and then you'll have a more positive experience, I guess, in the long run, rather than bumping from place to place, trying to find something and then not getting in, and then feeling kind of dejected about the lack of the positive reinforcement that you would like living here. And my funniest, I don't know, it's kind of inappropriate. Alright, so like I said before, kids say some of the craziest things, and I won't even say the weirdest one, but as for reference, I teach from 1st grade to 6th grade in elementary school. And I remember in my first year as an English teacher, I was teaching a second grade class, and this boy, he saw me. Usually at elementary schools, there's not always a staff bathroom, so you have to use the restrooms with the children. Usually the adults use the restrooms on the 1st floor, where the teacher's room is, Shokuinshitsu, and like Kocho Sensei's office. There's a bathroom near there that usually only the staff uses, but sometimes there's not, especially in the older buildings. So I remember I was in this bathroom, and this kid comes up to me, and he asked me how long my manhood is, and he said it with a very straight face. I was washing my hands at the time, and I was like, bruh, I'm not gonna dignify that with an answer, sir. He's a 2nd grader. He's like 7, 8 years old. So it's it was wild. It's definitely not the craziest thing I've heard, but nor the first nor the last time that I've actually heard that. But that question specifically, yeah, it comes up quite often. I think it's just like a stereotype, perhaps. And to be introduced to that particular stereotype at such a young age is kind of weird. Or then, I'm not really sure, maybe it's just little Japanese boys are kind of just strange in general. They're always on top of each other, rolling around in the ground, like whatever chance they get. They're very physical together. The general attitude towards black people in Japan. Part of me wants to say it's no different than the general attitude towards foreigners in Japan. And then another part of me is like, it does have some of its nuances specifically related to being black, but I think they're more subtle in their evident nature. Like, you're not gonna notice it. And then a lot of what could be there is just like straight up ignorance. So a friend of mine has a mother. They're Japanese. I was drinking with them, and Japanese people get red when they drink. I'm brown. I do not get red when I drink. I stay the same color. And the mom, we're relatively close in terms of like communication and like relationship. Like, we know each other. She's like, "Oh, Touré, why don't you get red?" And I'm like, or first she's like, because we were sharing a bottle of wine, and she was pretty drunk, and she was like, "Why aren't you drunk?" I'm like, "I'm a little tipsy." She's like, "But you're not red." I'm brown. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And then she's like, "Oh, I feel so jealous. I wish I was brown." I'm like, "Do you really? Do you really wish you were brown?" And do you wish you were brown just for this one thing? Like, it's pretty shallow. So I think maybe sometimes Japanese people take for granted their knowledge or lack of knowledge of what it means to be black, and that might have an effect on how they interact with black people. But like I said, it'll be in a really subtle kind of like one of those microaggression. I feel like if you're sensitive to those kinds of things, you might, have a negative impression. But yeah, I guess Japanese people get away with that sometimes. But my girlfriend, she just like, she doesn't, it's no holds barred with her. She was like, "This is totally unacceptable as a Japanese person." I am like, well, the country that I live in is so insane. Yeah, so that's how I feel about it. And I've been wondering that for the longest time. I wish I got some hair product. I do my own hair, and I don't really use too much because I try to keep it short, with little maintenance. I just wash it, condition it, and I have some like hair conditioner that I get from my mom. She'll send it sometimes, or I think it's on Amazon. It's called Nature's Blessing. Or I have shea butter. Everyone uses shea butter. Yeah, there's some things. There's certain things within the culture that are very culturally divergent from America, but on the surface, it looks pretty Western. It's a good imitation. So when you first get here, you might actually be surprised or blissfully unaware like how similar a lot of things are compared to America or anywhere in the West. But then there's like this weird like idiosyncrasies that's like okay, like yesterday I went with my girlfriend to go shopping. She needed to go to a funeral, and she has to buy, like, in Japan there's like a uniform for funerals, which is so like unnecessarily rigid. Like, okay, someone just died. Maybe you may have been close to that person, you may have not been close to that person, but then it feels very kind of oppressive to be forced to be having to wear and carry. You have to carry this little black bag. It has made out of a very specific material, and it has a very specific handle and a very specific size. And you have to have very kind of not tasteful clothing to wear. And it's not just the funerals, it's also the graduation ceremonies, wedding ceremonies. I don't think men have this much of a problem because we don't have very creative ways of dressing. Unfortunately, it's usually just a suit. I mean, if it's a funeral, you're gonna wear a suit, a black tie. The tie has to be black because it's a funeral. You can't wear that tie any other time, just at the funeral. And then the women have to carry this black bag, or if it's graduation ceremony, you have to carry like a bamboo bag, or if it's, you know, all these other events, they have like a store that you can go to and just buy a set of the stuff. When you go to get your shukatsu, what is it? Recruiting. When you go to do your recruiting, you have to wear your shukatsu suit. It's like why go that far to like kind of stamp out the little bit of individuality you could have had on just even a tie or down to your socks. It's like it's kind of your shoes, everything. I think that's something I miss, and I feel like that's something I would never ever conform to. That's like one of those things that yeah, I know I'm a foreigner because I can get away with this. I'm gonna wear what I'm going to wear and I'm going to be comfortable. I'm gonna wear it in a way that, you know, meets the expectations of like, oh, you have to have this type of attire because this occasion demands it. Okay, I'm gonna meet that expectation, but I'm not gonna like do it the same way. Everyone does things the same way here, and it's really weird. If there's one thing I could change about the world, I would just make it so that people became a little bit more self-aware of their impact on other people, on their environment, on their communities, on their own personal lives. Sometimes I think people are just not aware of moments, and then we kind of segment things into just like blocks of time or areas of space, and we don't really appreciate certain things, and then that's why things turn to shit. There's one person, dead or alive, that I would like to have dinner with. I would like to have dinner with Shiina Ringo, I guess. And Shiina Ringo is a Japanese musician, rock artist, rock jazz artist, former frontwoman of Tokyo Jihin, another band famous in Japan. She's actually going to be directing some part of the Olympics next year, like the opening ceremony. Yeah, she's kind of cool. I'd like to meet her. Her proudest accomplishment is getting here. Well, to this moment. Not this moment in particular, but this time and space. Like, it's kind of sad when I have to think about like some of my friends that may have passed away, whether that's due to suicide. Don't do it, it's not worth it. Or they were shot, like just randomly on the street of Chicago. Or, you know, I've had friends that've gone to jail. Like, I haven't had any of those negative experiences through the grace of the universe or my family, my friends, or whatever. Like, I've never broken a bone in my body. I've never had to go to the hospital. Like, just me being able to say that I'm grateful for my life and like living in this like relatively safe and comfortable environment, and having a job that, you know, allows me to eat. A lot of people don't have those things, and so my greatest achievement is just being able to live and try to give back. And giving back could either be through my art. Like I've built murals. There's murals in airports, like in Chicago, and other art installations I've done, or products that I've produced for people that use them for their own businesses and services, or me teaching children. Having the life that I've had to be able to do those types of things is my greatest achievement. Man, I'm young. I'm only 27. And so I feel like my life is still pretty fresh. The biggest lesson so far is to do what you say and say what you mean. My earliest memory is colors, shapes, and a smell that I really can't describe, but I'll explain what the colors and shapes are. The colors are, I think, how I associated the image of my mom and my father, and then the shapes are also their forms. I believe this is probably from when I was a baby. I don't remember like the context of this, but there's very particular colors and shapes that I associate, I think, with my mom and my dad. And when I think about it, I'm like, I feel like I'm looking up. I was probably on my back and they're like talking to me. But I think this memory is in this shape is because, you know, babies, you know, brains are still forming, they're still developing, especially right after birth. And so I think I broke the image of my parents down into like those like super basic forms in my earliest knowledge. And so I feel like that's the earliest memory. It's just like this little blue blob and like a light blue kind of pastel blue blob and like a creamy, like a cream of corn kind of yellow for my dad. Yeah, weird. That's a lot of pressure. What would I say to the whole world in 15 seconds? Trust yourself. That's it. Trust yourself. So I think the world could learn, I really want to say patience, but it's probably not even patience. I feel like it's empathy. Yeah? Empathy. I think Japan has a very good understanding of its community, and I feel like that might be the reason, because it's so homogenous, that they're so empathetic to others within their community. So when there's, you know, times of disaster or times of, oh, last year was like crazy. There was earthquakes, landslides, and rains, and typhoons, and it was crazy last year. But in those times, I think people generally put themselves in the other person's shoes and try to be as accommodating and hospitable as possible. And that, I think, extends into like a daily thing. Maybe the pressure is a bit much a lot of the times to always be expected to deliver that, and I don't think that is ideal either, but just going a little bit above goes a long way. The most visit place to go in Japan, I would say, is, I'm gonna say Fukuoka, because I don't think Fukuoka gets enough credit. And Tokyo and Kyoto, they're all so very crowded all the time, and Osaka, you know, of course all the travel sites are going to tell you to go there, but no one visits Fukuoka, and they have like really great weather, and I like the energy that the city has. It's like, it's very close to the water. It has like a harbor and stuff, and it's very calm. It's kind of a small, it's a bigger city, but it's small compared to Osaka or Tokyo. But I think there's a lot to be explored and discovered in Fukuoka, and I kind of think it deserves our attention, even from the Japanese. I think the Japanese kind of ignore it too, which is sad. I think Japan doesn't get enough media coverage about social issues. A lot of maybe legislation surrounding the social issues in Japan are kind of either stagnant or there's just not even there. I'm not going to say that I know a whole lot about the politics in Japan, but I do recognize that they do need a lot more attention given towards like long-term solutions to their short-term problems. Relatively short-term problems. For instance, there's a lot of issues where that could easily be solved just by setting up more like daycares. Like, there's a lot of women that are working, that are mothers that can't really work and be moms at the same time because the society is kind of pigeonholing them into just one gender role. Like, you can't work because you're a woman, and being a parent, that's your job. And I don't know, I was raised by my mom, so I think she did a good job, and as many other people around the world probably have, as single fathers or single mothers. But I think a lot of the society kind of pressures women or criticizes them for being in that situation, or, you know, not having a husband to take care of them. But at the same time, a lot of people don't even have the wages to sustain a marriage, or you know, live comfortably without breaking their backs in the city or anywhere in Japan, really, because of the stagnating wages. And it takes so long to advance in the ranks at your company or whatever, and even inside of your company, no matter how good you are, they advance careers based off of age, not based off skill, not merit or skill. It's just pretty antiquated, and I feel like it's affecting many other parts of their economy that could be growing if they just changed or stopped some of this unnecessary thinking and bureaucracy as well. So yeah, advice for black people: learn Japanese. Yeah, don't come to Japan if you don't. I mean, you can come to Japan if you don't know Japanese, but your life would be so much easier. Just learn Japanese. And it doesn't even have to be a lot, but enough to get by, or at least enough to, you know, be polite. The last thing you want is having, there's just the pressure of like, you have to, since there are so few of us, you know, you want to be your best self. And so even if that means saying hello or good evening, how are you, something simple like that, I think people will generally be very pleased with that thoughtfulness and consideration, especially since you're not from here. And I think that's also very desirable no matter where you go. Well, like I said before, I've been studying Japanese for about 10 years. So, and I took the JLPT N3, I think 2 years ago, passed that. And then I took N2 last December. I failed that. That's a hard test. I'll take it again in July, whatever. So I'm somewhere between N3 and N2. N2 is basically business level, and N3 is like intermediate, I guess. So I'm in the middle of there somewhere. And every morning I read news articles in Japanese on the way on the train going to work. And that's about an hour. So I try to read as many articles as I can. I use an app called Easy Japanese. You can find it in the iTunes store. And this app has vocabulary highlighted by the JLPT level. And you can do articles that are on the easier side or articles that are on the more difficult side. And they get their articles from like NHK and Asahi Shimbun and all the reputable news sources. And sometimes there's videos that are connected to the news articles, so you can watch that as well. It'll all be in Japanese. And so whenever I come across these things or interesting situations that have happened to me on a daily basis, I write a journal. And I also upload that to the internet. I have native Japanese people correct that. That's an app called Hello Talk. I recommend that as well, so you can see their corrections and the parts that you messed up on. And then I take all that information, I transcribe it or rewrite it by hand into my notebooks. And so I have like 3 notebooks full of just like daily journals, at least since I think I started 2 years ago. So I have about, and I don't really do them every day now, but I have about like 460 entries. And I think if you are starting off Japanese, the way you, at least for me, my entries were very short, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. But then they've gotten longer to being like paragraphs. And I think if I really pushed myself, I could probably write an essay if I wanted to. I'm self-taught, by the way. I didn't go to class. I don't have any like language school experience or college experience in an actual Japanese class. But just through that due diligence, you know, just getting into a routine and a rhythm, you'll pick it up faster. And if you start off just by translating your day-to-day thoughts, then you can be able to say those thoughts, especially if you write them down. Because then, like, oh, I'm thinking, oh, 今日は何が食べがいいかな? What should I eat today? 焼き芋食べに行こう. So let's go eat 焼き芋. どこだ? Where? スーパー。あとドンキかな? So you can get it at the supermarket or donkey, right? So, you know, it's very conversational. I think I'm not good at Keigo. I can read it and I hate it. Oh, I hate Kegel so much, but that's a whole nother beast. So if you just get to the point where you know hiragana, katakana, and can like maybe write a few sentences of your day-to-day thoughts. I want to wear these shoes. I need to take out the garbage. I should buy these groceries. And translate those into Japanese, and you'll be much, much closer to being fluent. I think pronunciation is the most underrated part of learning Japanese. There's a certain rhythm in Japanese. I'm not the best. My girlfriend says I'm onchi, which means tone deaf. So the pitch of words goes up and down depending on the word, because there's lots of homonyms, yeah, words that sound the same but are different. So you have like ame and ame. I'm not even sure if I did that right, but one means candy and one means rain. And so yeah, I think since I have a lot of Japanese friends, a lot of the times that they make fun of, especially in media, it's like that's the trope. It's like, oh, the foreigner speaks this really weird, awkward Japanese. Watashi wa Emery desu. It's so cringy, and I don't like it. I wish they would stop. And it's so embarrassing. I think we all should get together and like, you know, really fix the pronunciation, because it's so not the good. You can find me under the name Sun King Designs. I'm pretty sure there'll be a link, and at my website sunkingdesigns.com, and also on Facebook, Sun King Designs. I have a page there, or Touré Grantham.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to share your story or have us visit your region, send us a message on any of our social media platforms or via our website.